Hey guys, I'm Mark.
I'm Alon.
And welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up. Well, hey listeners, welcome to the Next Man Up podcast. My name is Mark Stanifer, and I'm so excited that you have chosen to join us and spend some of your time with us. And I am thrilled to be able to bring you today's episode. We have a special guest today. Those of you that have been with us for a while know that we are about raising up the next generation of men of faith and of character. And that is our mission, what we were about on this show. And to date, we have had nothing but male voices, dads and men contributing to this cause. And today, we are thrilled to be able to introduce the first female voice on this show. Her name is Amy Ambrozich, and Amy and I met earlier this year in a different way, or kind of an unexpected way. And as we began talking, we just realized that we have a lot of things in common professionally and in our passions. And so we could not wait to get Amy on the show and contribute to the cause. She is a certified parenting and step-family coach. She does her work under the name of Dare to Parent. That's her business. And she just is passionate about helping parents to raise up kids. And so we figured what better way to introduce the first female on this podcast than to have a parenting coach come in and talk to us about what she's seeing, what parents are challenged with today, what kids are challenged with today, and offer some relevant and timely and practical advice about how we can be, in particular, better dads, but more generally, better parents. And I'm also excited to let you know that Amy and I will be doing a parenting workshop in the Central Ohio area coming up on Saturday, October 12th. So if you're in the area, if you're listening and you're thinking, boy, I could use some of Amy's advice and would like to be part of this workshop, go on out to our website, thenextmanup.com/events. All the details are there. It's going to be a really, really good time, opportunity for parents to think through some things together, to work together, to be in community with other parents wrestling through some of the same issues. So we would love to have you join us for that parenting workshop. Again, all the details on the website, and you could check it out there. We would love to see you there. So Amy is our guest today. Excited to bring this one to you. If you have feedback, questions, comments, you can hit us up at feedback@thenextmanup.com, or you can check us out on Facebook or Twitter. At The Next Man Up 1 is where we reside there. We would love for you to engage with us and let us know what you think about Amy's content and her voice in this mission. And we'd just love to get your feedback. Okay, without any further ado, let's get to our conversation with Amy Ambrozich. Well, Amy, welcome to the Next Man Up podcast. We're so excited to have you join us today. And I think you know this, but you are the first woman to be on the show. So congratulations.
Yes.
I'm excited. Thank you.
Well, we're honored that you're here. And as your story and experience unfolds, it will be clear to everybody why. But just thank you for being a part of the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited. I have a lot of mom friends, talk to moms all the time about, the hardships of being a mom. But I really get the juicy information when I get to sit down with dads and get their perspective, because I know what it's like to be a mom. I love to sit down with dads and say, where are you struggling? How can I help you make that connection with your kiddos?
Yeah.
So when you offered this to me, I was like, yes, let's do it. I couldn't wait.
Well, you're going to be talking right to our audience.
Yep,
so we've got a whole spectrum of fathers and probably some mothers and who knows who else is listening in. But we definitely have fathers listening in that will be interested in what you have to say.
Absolutely.
But fun fact, before we go any further, Alon, do you remember a few episodes ago we were recording the show about honoring women? And I shared the story of the young man who had met this new girl but didn't want to come in front of her relationships. That was Amy's son.
Very cool. Very cool. Your son's a cool dude.
Thank you.
Good head on his shoulders.
So I know who you are. We've had the opportunity to talk together, coffee together multiple times, but nobody else knows who you are and why it is that you're here with us recording today. So would you just take a minute and just tell us a little bit about your story, who you are, and then we'll kind of transition into why you're here with us today. It'll make a little bit more sense when our listeners know who you are.
Sure. My name is Amy Ambrozich, mom of 3, now young adults. We made it through the teens. I'm so
Congratulations.
excited. That in itself is
Wow.
No small task right there.
Yeah.
No small task. Mom of 3, the oldest just celebrated her first wedding anniversary yesterday, so we're excited. That's a new change for us to be parents of a married child now, so that's been interesting.
Yeah.
Our middle one is doing well and as a deputy right locally, and our youngest is a computer web app developer, which I try to understand what that means, but I'm going to be honest with you, I have this much knowledge. He's super smart with all of that.
Like you knew what you were talking about.
Well, I'm trying. I'm really trying. So, and our oldest is a teacher. So we've launched them, and we're very excited about that. But it was not an easy journey. I ended up as a parent coach, kind of long story short version. I was volunteering a lot in our kids' elementary school, and I got to know the school counselor because I was doing a lot of one-on-one teaching with the kids, a lot of coaching with the kids, which then led me into conversations with their parents in the hallway. Hey, I worked with so-and-so today, and here's what we did, and we tried this at home. And I got a call one day and she said, you're going to come with me. We're going to get trained in this parenting program called Active Parenting, and then we're going to teach workshops. I had no idea what Joanne was talking about, but I'm like, well, if Joanne says go, we go. So got in the car and I went.
Along for the ride.
And I knew it was going to be a good one, and I was hooked immediately. And I think part of the reason I was hooked was because I remember struggling when our kids were younger, trying to figure out, they don't give you a book. They give you your newborn in the hospital and set you in the car and wave at you. And they giggle.
We've never said that here, right? There's no manual.
Oh my gosh.
Over and over again.
Right.
Yes.
Not a manual in the world.
No. So, there were just times when my husband and I would sit and look at each other and go, what the heck do we do now?
Yeah.
We had to figure it out. So luckily, we both have, parents that were very supportive, but they stood back and let us try to figure that out. They were like, when you need us, let us know. But otherwise, you two need to figure out how to be parents together.
Nice.
And that led me into one-on-one coaching with couples because nobody teaches us how to parent well together. I knew my gig. He knew his gig from what his parents did and what my parents did. How do we blend that together? How do we make that all work for what we want for our kids to get them successful and launched? So I went from teaching workshops within the school district to now working one-on-one with couples, with individual parents who just want to get a better grip on how do I do this well?
Okay.
And I'm not an expert. I don't, that expert with quote marks.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. Far from that. I made plenty of mistakes on my journey as a mom, but that's how we learn. And I'm always reading new things and what else can I, teach parents. So Mark and I met at Connected in Worthington one day, and it was a symbiotic kind of thing. It was like we just started talking, and it took off from there. So in our conversation for coffee the next week ended up 2.5 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Because it was our niche. We're talking about parenting, and raising good kids, which I think we all want to do.
Sure.
So that's why I'm here today. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Neat story.
And like you said, that initial conversation that we had just felt like, there's a message here, and there's a way for us to be able to work together and to help out the people that are within our influence. And obviously you're here today with us sharing your information. One of the things that struck me initially from our conversations was how in tune you are with what parents are dealing with, what they're struggling with, the challenges that they're facing in this. Like you already mentioned, there's no manual. What do I do? How the heck do we figure this out? today in 2019, it's a different time than when you were parenting your kids. And even when I was parenting my kids 10 years ago, the world is different. I think culturally things are different. One of the big questions I wanted you to help us wrestle with is, what are these big challenges that you see parents facing today?
I would say overall, it's that connecting with our kids at this point. You know, they say that we're hyper connected because we all have these cell phones, but because of the cell phones, we're less connected as a family. Think about it. How often do you go and sit in a restaurant and you see an entire family, parents and kids, everybody's on their own phones?
Yeah.
They're missing that opportunity to
often.
just way too often. And we're missing that conversation time with them. It's that connection. I think parents are also, there's some push, and I hate to say this, but sometimes there's some peer pushback from other parents if we're the ones that want to say no. You know, I was in a situation where one of my kiddos was invited to a party, and it was a 5th and 6th grade party where it was going to be boys and girls. They were all going to be hanging out at one person's, you know, pool and the whole thing. But all of the parents were going to be at a house a couple houses down. I was like, whoa. Who's going to be supervising the children in this process? Because they're 5th and 6th graders. Not dumb kids by any means, but they're kids. They're gonna make, you know, they could make some errors of judgment. Like, oh no, they'll be fine. And I was that person that said, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable with that. And I got so much pushback. So my job, I feel, part of what I do is empower parents to step into their strength. You need to be willing to be that parent that says no. You need to be that parent that says, I'm not comfortable with that. Can we figure something else out? I was the parent that told my kids no. We had rules in our house. I was not going to let them rule the roost. You know, we have to set up those guardrails to keep our kids on the path. So I missed your question completely in all of that.
So
that was good.
Yeah, let me recap what I hear. So first of all, connecting with your kids is a big challenge. And there's something that happens in those teenage years where it's like the child begins to pull apart, and mom and dad are no longer cool, and connecting becomes difficult. And what you're suggesting is, with the onset of technology, it's even harder. Like parents have to be more intentional to really connect with their kids.
Absolutely. And we need to be really aware of what our kids are getting into.
Yeah.
Because when they're on their phones or on their iPads, we don't know who they're talking to, or when they're, you know, gaming and they've got, you know, connections all across the world, basically, we don't know who they're connecting with.
Right.
So, and I think part of the problem too with parenting right now is there's parents that are afraid to step up and say, I'm not going to let that be in my household, even though it's socially acceptable. You know, there are parents that have said, my kids are not getting a cell phone till they're in 5th and 6th grade. My kids aren't doing this. And it's okay to do that. Your kids will push back, but then that's when you have to open up those family conversations then. So besides, I would say, besides knowing how to...
Let me just cut you off. Before you go to the next one, what I hear you saying there is, as a parent, give yourself, or as a parent coach, you're giving parents permission to say no.
Absolutely.
Despite what everybody else is doing or saying, despite the pushback from the kids, you're saying it is okay to say no. In fact, the three of us, were all kind of nodding our heads. It's important to say no, right? Not just okay. It's part of the job description. But as the one of the big challenges that you see is parents not exercising the authority to say no. Do I have that right?
Yes, absolutely.
And it also sounds like you're also pressing that we as parents, we need to be okay in our own parenting skin.
Yes.
You know, we have to be like, you know, the expression, we have to have like tough skin, or, you know, let it roll off our backs or whatever. I think it's just being okay with who you are and who you are as a parent. And if someone doesn't like that, that's fine. They don't have to, you know, but it's more of like what's going on internally with you as a parent. And like you said, like, is there a conversation that's happening with the kid? You know, I think that's where it is. Because I think sometimes we can be, we as parents, we can we can come down on our kids like, the Iron Curtain.
Yes.
and this place is for that, I think, but the piece for me that changes is, no, I'm okay, because there is something that is giving me red flags as a parent. It's calling me to say, you know what, that's not going to happen. And then there also needs to be an understanding. Like, my kid doesn't have to necessarily agree with me, but I want to have him or her like have a conversation with me, and let's talk this through so I can hear their side. Yeah. They can hear my side.
Yes.
They can hear my care and my love and me wanting the best for them, and to take care of them, and also to hear their I don't think it's fair. Well, tell me why you don't think it's fair. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that rolling around too, but I think it starts with like we need to be okay in our own skin as parents.
And I love that you said what you said about listening, because one of the phrases I always teach in my workshops is listen to learn, not to lecture.
Yeah.
We're so quick to ask our kids a question, and then we already know what we're going to say before they even answered it.
Yeah.
So listen to learn. So what you said is perfect. Tell me why you don't think this is okay. Tell me why you are pushing back from this rule.
Oh, why you think it's cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. It might be.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying no, but you're like, no, we need to do this. Like,
yeah.
Why? Like, so yeah, absolutely. It's good.
Yeah. So staying connected, saying no, being comfortable in your own parenting skin. What other challenges do you see?
Making time. Everybody's so busy. And again, using the air quotes of busy.
Yeah.
We find ourselves busy all the time, but and of course there are parents that are working 2 and 3 jobs and, to make ends meet and put meals on the table. I get all that, but there are times when how many of us sit and we're flipping through Facebook or we're doing something else that we could be connecting with our kids. Making that one-on-one time with our kids is so important, and we forget to make those dates. Let's make the dates with each kid individually and really get to know them more. We tend to get, wrapped up in there's laundry and dishes and I've got to fix the car and I got to run this in. And we forget that we need to just unplug a little bit and plug into our kids. So we get so busy. Busy is the word we always say. Oh, I'm so busy.
Yeah,
I don't
it
know
can
if I
be
can
an
fix
excuse, though.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
It can also be a comparison game. Well, I'm busy running everybody around like this because all of my neighbors or in my social
Yes.
right, exactly. And you're not really connecting. You're just shuttling people and right.
Yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah.
I think of your when you say we're busy, the tyranny of the urgent always presses against us as adults, as parents. And we, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, when I feel overloaded and I feel like there's not enough time in a day because I got 25 million things to do and they all cost money, I can sort of go through the day and get to a point where I just crash, and it's hanging out with a family member, hanging out with a kid, hanging out with my wife. It's not there in my brain, and so there's total understanding for that. But man, no one said it was going to be easy. We have to do the hard things sometimes. And one of the hard things is going, no, I'm going to set up some time to spend with my child that needs it. And that's important.
Absolutely. And the kids are craving that. They just don't know how to say it. And sometimes we see it in their behavior. Okay. Sometimes their misbehavior is really a scream for your attention.
Yeah.
And if I can't get your attention doing, positive things, I know I'll get your attention if I'm, yanking on the cat's tail. You're going to be paying attention to me. Yeah. So sometimes if we don't do that intentional parenting of one-on-one time or family time or whatever, we could see it on the back end with our kids behaving in a way that gets our attention.
Let's flip the perspective now.
Okay.
And I know you're in tune with kids too because you're in tune with their parents. So let me ask the same question. When you look across the landscape today, what are the big challenges that kids are facing?
Oh boy, the list is long. But I think one of the beautiful things about the work that I do is I also work part-time for the Worthington School District, and I'm on their Insight team. So what we do is kids that are suspended because of a drug or alcohol infraction, they can elect with their parents to come in for 3 consecutive Mondays and work with us. And we talk about communication and discipline and drug awareness, and we really empower the kids to, make informed decisions and all of that. But I get the beautiful time on the first Monday of sitting down with the kids and going, okay, really, what's going on?
Okay.
And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed all the time. I come to school stressed. I go home stressed. We have our high academic performing kids who are literally from morning to night trying to accomplish 101 things that they don't have time to fit in. We've got our low functioning kids who are just struggling to keep up.
Okay.
We have our kids who are trying to figure out, where do I fit in socially? I walk into school, is someone going to judge me because I wore this outfit today? Or if I raise my hand, am I going to say something stupid and someone's going to laugh at me? Kids are expressing more anxiety and stress and fear, and I hate to say a lack of hope, but maybe it's a lack of goals. I don't know what I'm shooting for, so I'm just going to kind of freewheel it until I figure it out. We were blessed. Our kids came out with goals, like, get out of my way, I got things to do. Literally
just
all 3 of them, like, just get out of my way, things to do. Things to accomplish, goals to achieve. But not everybody's driven like that. So we need to help our kids, our goal-driven kids. Sometimes we have to reel them back
rein
in and
them
go,
in a little bit,
you need to just take a few minutes and just relax. But there are a lot of kids who, I don't know, I'm going to go to high school. And then what are you going to do after high school? Well, college. Well, but why are you going to college? Well, because you're supposed to. They don't have an end goal that they're shooting for, like, because I want to be a radio talk show host, or I want to be a dog groomer, whatever it is. They're lacking goals, so they're flopping around trying to figure things out. And they feel like, I know I'm supposed to have what do we ask kids? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
What if we ask them a better question, like, what problems do you want to solve when you grow up? Changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
Totally. It's not a to-do list anymore. It's a, what am I going to do? Not a, I have to.
Yeah.
But kids feel that. We're pressuring them in 4th and 5th grade. Are you going to be in the STEM program? Well, if so, then this is your line. I'm in 4th grade. I don't know what I'm eating for supper tonight. Like, please don't ask me those questions.
Yeah.
But we're trickling down those questions we used to ask juniors and seniors in high school. We're trickling it down to middle school. So we're asking them to have the capacity to figure all that out when they're not ready. So the stress level is there for them too.
Without the connection with their parents, and without the parents understanding who they are and how they're wired and helping to guide them. It's like what you're saying, if I'm following you right, is you see all this responsibility to make decisions heaped on kids without necessarily the parental support to really navigate through what all that means.
We had this was a couple of months ago, an interesting first Monday night with one of our Insight groups. And the one kid said, I am so stressed. And his mom looked at him and said, what do you have to be stressed about? Because she's like, you're 15. How stressed can you be?
Right.
We got into that room with me and just the kids. I'm like, really, what is stressing you out? This poor kid had a laundry list of things.
Sure.
But they didn't share those with. He's like, I can't tell her. She's working 2 jobs trying to support us. She doesn't need my stuff.
Yeah.
So that then puts the onus on us as parents to make sure we're getting in there and asking those questions.
Wow.
So, but it's not all negative. I know I keep mentioning things like this is where we're struggling.
Well, that's what I asked,
that's
right?
What, we
you're
asked
in the
for struggle.
mix. You're working with parents as clients, as peers, right? Like you're in the mix. What are parents wrestling with? What are kids wrestling with today?
Yeah, and it's nice that if we're aware of this stuff, then we can step into, so now what?
Yeah.
Which is what we're all doing. That's
you
what
don't
we're
have to
all
stay
about.
there.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So let's segue a little bit,
Okay.
and give our listeners a sense for what is a parent coach? What do you do? How do you work with people, right? So we just set the table with all kinds of problems that parents are facing and kids are facing and the pain points. And I imagine some of our listeners are like, "Yep, that's me," or "Yep, you nailed my experience." How do you help them? What do you do that helps them to get out of that place, to get unstuck and begin to move forward?
I look at it as almost peeling layers of an onion apart, like one layer at a time. My goal is to help them build what I call the family foundation. So
Okay.
that's your vision, your values, and your goals for your family. And we really need to peel deep in to get into that. So what is your vision? We never talk about what's our family vision. That's not something we normally have a conversation about. But when I start working with them and say, where are you struggling? Where do you want to be? That's your vision right there. How do we build a pathway now from here to there? Well, we got to figure out, what are your values? What are your family values? And I do a full exercise with couples when I sit down with them, or individual parents, whoever's, I'm sitting with. I'm like, I have a list of values. There's about 150 on this sheet. I'm like, pick your top 15. And they look at me, they're like, are you serious? I'm like, go for it. But I make, especially with couples, I make them face in different directions so they can't see what the other one's doing. And then I have them circle their top 5. And then we talk about those. Where is their common ground? So at least we know we're on that same page. I had a couple who both picked respect, which we all do. What do you want to teach your kids? I want them to be respectful. It was interesting to sit down with them, though, because he had a different version of what respect looks like versus what hers looked like. And they looked at each other like, what are you talking about? Why are you describing it that way? Because we were raised that way.
Yep.
So again, it's that parenting that we brought from our home families, our birth families, into this mix. So I work on vision, values, and goals. So we peel back. What is that going to look like for your family?
Sure.
What is it that you really want to instill in your kids? I can teach you 132 different discipline techniques. None of it is going to matter if you don't know what that end goal is. You have to know what that family foundation is. And once we have that foundation, man, we can build all kinds of great things on top of that. Better communication, better family dynamics. We can talk about discipline. And it's not negative. It could be positive discipline, things that we're going to plop in there. It's not necessarily all about, what are your kids doing wrong? Let's celebrate what your kids are doing right.
Yeah.
Ask a parent couple, what do you do well together? When I work with step couples, oh my gosh, I love them because they come from such different perspectives. They might be his kids and she moved into the family. So, but what is she bringing in? What strengths does she have that you don't have? And vice versa.
Yeah.
When I work with couples who are split up and they're co-parenting from different households, we still need to recognize you may be fabulous at organizing the calendar, and that might be something I'm awful at. But I may be really good at getting the kids settled down for bed so that they're relaxed and they're getting a night. So we work with each other's strengths. But how do we figure that all out? We got to peel back that onion until we get down to it.
You got to talk about it. That's what I hear you saying, right? That's that big C word. We have to communicate. Right.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to, these are odd conversations. They're not in my house because of what I do. But most people don't talk about this stuff.
Sure.
Most couples don't sit down and go, what is our family vision going to be?
Yeah,
It's not something we think that we need
Yeah.
until we need it. Until we're in trouble, then we're looking at each other like, whoa, what are we going to do next? Like, how are we going to get out of this? But where are we going? It's like GPS. You need to tell them where you're going so you have a path.
Yeah. Back to most couples don't do this. They may not know that they need to do it. They may not know how to do it. Many are just operating on autopilot, right? You were talking about we learned to parent this way from how we were raised. And so without any gut check or self-reflection, you just take that style right into your parenting responsibility. And that always works well, right? Wink, wink.
I think it sounds like we as parents we have to make a choice. I think it starts with a choice. Like do we want to do this well or not? You know what I mean? And from there we can move on. Because for me, I'm listening to you and I'm going, yeah, I want that, and I'm for that, but I'm gonna have to make a choice to go after that.
Yes.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like for me, my spouse, my kids, my family, to move forward, we're going to have to go after it. And so it starts with a choice, I think.
Yeah.
And the rest of it, I think, it's just left foot, right foot after that. But parents, for us, if we want to get off the couch, so to speak, we're gonna have to make a choice to get off.
Don't you think most parents want that though?
Yeah.
Like if they were to say, if they were to look at, let's make it very binary, a quote unquote good parent and a bad parent. Most parents are going to be like, I want to be the good parent.
Yeah.
But it takes effort.
It does.
It's not easy. You got to get your, up off of the couch and engage. We use that word all the time, right? You have to engage. And Amy, I love what you're saying is not just engage with your kids. You have to engage with your parent partner, whether it's a spouse or live-in or step fam, like whoever it is. You have to engage with that person so that you can then show up together and parent your children together in an engaged way.
And nobody tells us that that's part of what we should be doing. Again, they send us home with no manual, and they also don't send us home with a 20-topic list of things you should talk about before as you're starting this.
Right.
They don't tell us any of that. And I remember being little and watching my parents and then going to other people's homes, like my friends' homes, and watching their parents. And my dad laughs. He's like, well, apparently you were supposed to be doing this parenting coaching because you were observing even when you were little, which I didn't. I was just well aware of how my parents did things versus how my friends' parents did things. And I was like, why do they do it that way? And then I'd go home and ask my mom, like, why do you and dad do it this way? And we'd have those conversations. And it was interesting. And I was number 4 of 5. So by the time they got to me, they were like, we got this down pat. No biggie. So, but they went through their struggles. And I've talked to both of my parents about that. And there were moments where they were not on the same page for something. And they had to figure out, they had to sit down and have the conversation. What is it we want to do? How are we going to figure this out? It's parenting with intention.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Like I think about that, and I think how many times like me and my wife have had to revisit how we do things, almost for each kid.
Oh, absolutely.
Like there's difference. Like this is not working for this one.
No,
it's not abort. And like I was, I don't know if you were telling me this, but or I was listening to NPR. I am such a nerd.
Well, it's kind of synonymous.
Like, but
Mark and NPR.
Yeah, NPR.
I
just but like someone was talking about they were asking their mom why they cut the ends of the ham off before they put it in the oven, and mom was like, well, that's just how I learned to do it. And then you track it back through each generation, and every answer is like, well, that's just how Nana did it, or that's just how Auntie did it. And all of a sudden it comes to find out the only reason they cut off the ends of the ham was so that the ham would fit inside of the smaller ovens than we have today. You know what I mean? And like I get to that point sometimes, me and my wife, we get to that point sometimes with a kid and we're like, so why do we do it that way?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because that worked for so-and-so because that was the size of the problem. Right. But this problem is different. That one was a circle. This one is a square. Like, what do we do for the square? And we have to revisit. We do.
Yes.
And so it's not like a one-time deal with this parenting thing, coming up with techniques. You have to, like be like an amoeba and just go with the shape of what you have,
And their ages and stages too.
Yeah.
When they're toddlers, it's one thing, and then when they start school, then they start becoming their own human being, and that's a whole different version of like, oh, now we got to figure out how do we do this. And then they're dating, and you're like, oh boy, now we're in a whole different thing.
Dating.
And then your daughter calls to say we're getting married, and you're like, I need to figure out how to be a mother-in-law the right way, So I'm taking my mom's approach and just taking a step back and saying, you guys have this. We're here for support, but I trust the fact that you two have this. Because you do.
Yeah.
You're two
Yeah.
grown adults,
Yeah.
very smart people. You'll figure this out. We will support you, but you two have the conversation first. You need to figure this out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But we don't do that. We don't do that
Yeah.
with relationships.
Yeah.
We don't do that with parenting. No one tells us that we should be having these conversations. So I'm so excited to be here today with you guys.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty evident your contribution to what we're talking about here, and the wisdom and the expertise that you bring, and I'm sure it's clear to our listeners by this point why I'm like, hey, we got to get Amy on the show and help parents really understand what kids are going through. So I want to shift. Like we said, you're the first woman on the show. This question that I like to ask all of our male guests is around the influence of father and how father impacted you. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good. I know you have a good relationship with your father. It's a little bit of a different spin because your father didn't help you to become a man. Your father helped you to grow up to become the woman that you are. But would you just describe the influence that your dad had on you and perhaps even still has?
Okay, I gotta take a minute. Dad has always been, what's the best? We all say we won the lottery with mom and dad because we got two winners. But it was funny because I remember even as a kid watching mom and dad interact. Dad was always there. He was always involved. He was there to, if a kid needed a bath, he was there giving us a bath. If, diaper changes were just, it wasn't mom's job. It was whoever had the kid at the time. Dad worked full-time as a fireman, but he also worked 2 part-time jobs because he was supporting 5 kids through Catholic schools. So, but somehow or another, we remember him always being home. I remember Dad reading stories to me almost every night, which obviously he wasn't because he worked 24 on, 48 off. But I just have that sense that he was just there. He was mom's backup. Mom ran the house and she did it beautifully. When we got in trouble, though, she didn't do the whole wait till your father gets home thing. Mom handled it. Okay. She was not messing. Mom handled it. Yeah. And Dad knew that Mom was going to handle it. But then when Dad found out what we did, and my dad, God love him, Italian father, he just had the look. And that's all he had to do. For me, at least. All he had to do was give me the look. And I was like, I'm sorry, Dad.
Right. Because you had the relationship established. Yes. You knew you had wounded him at that point, right?
Yes. And it was they could have pulled my eyelashes out with tweezers and it would have been less hurtful than to see that look on my dad's face. Wow. That was just Dad. But to this day, and he's 89 and still leader of the family, and it's so funny because even now we still call him and go, what do you think? What do you think? But as a kid, just watching him be a support system and being my mom's true partner, that was the huge part of all of that. That taught me what to expect from the guys that I was dating, because Dad had, the old Italian Catholic. He had his rules for us. But he taught us the things like men respect women. Your podcast about honoring women, oh my gosh, I was all over that one. Because it's true, we honor our women. The men honor the women in the family as an equal, as a partner, as someone to be treasured, because the women are bringing that life into the world, but then we're partners raising this human being.
Right.
So Dad was just that role model for what I was going to expect. He was my checklist. Okay. So when I would date people, I'd be like, nope, he's out. Oh, this one's a pretty good match so far. And then I always ran my guys through Dad, and I would just have them over and they'd be there for family dinner, and then they would leave and I'd turn and look at my parents and go, so what'd you think?
The audition, right?
Yeah, they didn't know that, but they were being auditioned. It's because they both gave us that sense of, you need to have someone who's going to be a good partner for you. You need to have someone who's going to bring their strengths and respect your strengths.
Cool.
So you have that symbiotic partnership. So I could go on and on.
No, that's
What a
just
gift,
awesome.
though.
Yeah.
My
What a
dad,
gift.
it's ridiculous sometimes. Like, we were all saps when we talk about him, because in his battle with cancer, even, he's not complained once. He's like, it is what it is. But he is still the leader of this family, and he's fighting for every moment of it. So,
man, that's
but
awesome.
but having that strong role model of a father then set me to expecting, oh, my partner is going to have to make that checklist too.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
Setting the bar high, right?
setting the bar
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
God bless my husband, he's met it. But there have been moments too where I'd look at him and go, why are you doing it that way? Because it wasn't how my dad did things.
Right.
And he'd look at me and go, well, what are you talking about? So then we'd go back to those
Communication.
discussions.
Yeah.
It was a full circle moment for us. But I'd be like, well, I don't understand why you think that that's the right thing to do. He's like, well, because my dad did it that way. So then that opened up great conversations for us. Like, tell me more about your family and how you were raised, because I need to understand you from that point and why you're doing what you're doing, so that we can understand each other in our parenting roles. So yeah, Dad's been an influence for multiple generations. So
Wow. So cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
cool. Why in
I'm
the world?
blessed.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
blessed. Yes.
It's amazing.
So I know that we've got listeners out there that are thinking, boy, Amy cut right to the quick for where I am, and I could use her help. How can our listeners get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to reach out to you and to start that conversation?
They can hop onto my website, which is daretoparent.com. And there's at the very top, there's a little chat with Amy that you can click on. It'll set up a 30-minute, I offer 30-minute free conversation. It's a coaching session. I listen to where you're at. I'll give you some strategies. If we want to move forward, that's great. If you just want to have a quick 30-minute conversation with me and I can give you a couple of tips and send you on your way, that's fine too. But that would be the easiest way, is to just, get that phone call in and we'll just sit down. There's no judgment. I've made my mistakes. There is no judgment on that call. And it's just to tell me where you're at, tell me what you're struggling with, and here's a few things I can share with you now.
Yeah.
If we need to dig deeper, we can definitely do that. But it's a no sales pitch. It's not that smarmy. Okay. You have to come and work with me kind of thing. That's so not me. If I can give you 2 or 3 tips and send you on your way, absolutely fabulous. If not, then let's sit down and work together for a little bit.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Amy Ambrozich, daretoparent.com, folks. Amy, what a thrill to have you on with us
totally.
today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your insight, your wisdom, your story, your transparency. We don't have it all figured out either. We're just average guys with a heart to talk about things and to ever expand this conversation about how do we be good parents, how do we be good dads, and you've contributed to that today. So thank you so much for being with us.
Can I pop one more thing in really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, as a closer, because Mark, I knew that when we had talked originally, you were like, what's one thing you really want the dads to hear from you?
Yes.
I want you to say I love you to your kids.
Yeah.
And if it's not I love you, it's a fist pump. It's something that you're connecting with your kids. Your daughters need to know it and hear it loudly, because they will choose their future mates by the role model that you've set. So make sure your daughters hear it. Make sure your sons hear it. Let them know that you've got feelings, and let them know that it's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel that heartbreak when your girlfriend breaks up with you. Set those I love yous in place early and often. And if you're uncomfortable with that phrase, find a different phrase. I appreciate you. I really respect that you're doing this. Find those positives that you can drop into your kids' day every single day.
Yeah.
And it will be that building those little seeds that you're planting to keep that relationship growing.
Yeah,
so that's what I would love to close on.
Good.
Is that
speaking life
share
right there.
those I love you.
Yeah, no, that's really
good.
good. So thank you again for being with us. It's been our pleasure to have you, and wish you all the best with your parent coaching and Dare to Parent, and looking for good things to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, and with that,
Adios.
Adios. Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.